is that time. Southern Footy League about to start, of course. The Prez, as always, joins us. Craig, how are you, mate?
Great to be back, mate. Terrific.
All right, it's going to be an exciting weekend, mate. It is going to be a big weekend, no doubt about that. Before we get to the men and talk about them, let's a quick chat about the women, because they exploded last year, and you said it was bigger than you thought it was going to be. So obviously, the facilities have got to get around that, and the competition's got to get around it. The progress for the women has been pretty good.
Yeah, it has. We've got a couple of clubs will be fielding senior women for the first time in a couple of weeks. They kick off a couple of weeks later. But yeah, facility-wise, most of our clubs now have got plans being drawn up. Port Noarlunga had they've started the dig there, so to speak. So all the concrete's down, and now they're just finished building the rest of it. That'll be done come probably September, October. Christie's have got good change rooms. Ranella, Noarlunga, and Morpeth Vale have got plans to council at the moment. Hopefully they get them through, and yeah, it's a lot of things happening in the Southern Footy League round facility-wise.
There's also some big changes in the coaching ranks, mate, that I read with interest. There's a couple of very, very good coaches now that have put their hand up in the Southern Footy League. Yeah,
very much so. Port Noarlunga have appointed Tony Roach, the ex-North Adelaide League player.
Yeah.
He's been coached in various leagues and competitions around South Australia. He'll be a good fit for them. And Michael Hanby, the South Adelaide Reserves coach for the last couple of years, has stepped aside from South and has taken on the role at Morpeth Vale.
Is he playing?
He says he's not.
Yeah.
But you know what footballers are like, that.
I do.
Smell the limit, the
I
DP.
do exactly know what they're like. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to be a player and then all of a sudden be a coach and watch, especially if you can still play.
Oh, he certainly would be fit enough to play. Similar sort of thing with Joshy Thulis down at Noarlunga. Both say they're not going to play, but
don't be surprised.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I was sick of talking about COVID. I guess we're sort of all over it, but it's still very much here and alive. And so, what are the plans for the COVID protocols this season?
Hang on, are you swearing at me? I don't want to know that word.
Yeah.
We've got protocols and procedures in place. Of course we have. In regards to how many games will be lost, etc. Whether we can shift the grand final date looking forward. So yeah, there's been a lot of planning in the off-season, and clubs are fully aware of that. As we know, like poor old West Coast Eagles, 14, 15 changes. Similar thing could happen within our league. There was a trial game a couple of weeks ago with one club in the Great Southern played one of my clubs, and both had to go into 7-day isolation because there was positive cases come out of that. So we're hoping, we could play reduced numbers on the field, etc. We could drop the B grade, for instance, and still continue to play the A grade. Similar with the juniors, you could play reduced numbered games and whatever. But all of those things have been taken into account, and clubs have been briefed and are fully aware of the situation in regards to if it doesn't eventuate. We hope like hell it doesn't, because we'd like a free season for a change.
The SAFL, the AFL, AFLW and the SAFL, they all have the double vax rule. If you're not double vaxxed, you can't play. It's not the same in the Southern Footy League. Were you guys put under any pressure to make that part of the protocol?
No, not at all. Because, and we looked at it specifically, the fact how we're going to mandate that. If the government's not prepared to mandate it, we as a little country league, we've got no possible way of doing all the testing, etc., to cover off on that. So we've left it to the individual, and again, I would suggest you won't find too many that are not.
Mate, can I ask you about the AFLW, the SNFLW and your league? Your league is that you've got a rule in place about players coming back from the SNFLW, given that they are league players coming back into your competition, that they must play, if they have played 6 games, I believe, then they can't play in your league. Is it? Do you want to just elaborate a bit on that? Because I know your point, I know the point you're trying to make here, but just to let people know what's going on there.
Well, when you look at it, the biggest problem we've got with our women's competition is the non-alignment of seasons, with the AFLW starting way back when, The SANFL starting at that particular time. So you've got 3 different start times, finish times, etc.
Yeah.
So in our situation with the SANFLW, our games will start and there will still be 2 rounds of SANFLW
To go. Yeah.
So clubs are going to have to field sides in those first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
They're then saying, oh, well, what about all our players that want to come back? Well, what we're trying to do in the Southern Footy League is build our women's competition. We've got two clubs in particular that are starting for the very first time having women teams.
Yeah.
Now, is it fair to allow girls who've played SANFLW or league football
Yep.
to come back and take on these women
Who are just starting?
haven't trained? It's probably their first season of football. They're
Yeah.
a little bit older, etc. Don't we have a duty of care to look after them, as well as
That's a good point.
the situation? What happens if someone gets really badly injured by one of these SANFLW players?
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Yes, we might lose a couple of players to the league, but it's about building the participation. And when we do that, if these players aren't allowed to play, I think that's going to be a better build
Yeah.
for the future, rather than these girls have already played their season. They've been training since well before, say
Exactly.
October, November last year,
Yeah.
to come into the SANFLW season.
Yeah.
It's not restricting, because a lot of the clubs now also have junior development squads.
Yeah.
It's not about not allowing them to go back to their clubs. It's only if you've played at that elite level of SANFL league football in the women's competition against also rans or
Yeah.
newbies, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
Right, so, hey, we're going to run out of time, so just quickly, mate, let's get the games that are playing this weekend.
Yep.
Ranella, Flagstaff, that's grand final game last year.
Replay.
Yep, we're replaying. What's your tip?
Well, around the traps, Ranella, and you'll be pleased to know, Billy's a very happy man at the moment because
Right, Bill to be happy.
they've picked up a couple of big ruckmen, which was their Achilles heel last year. One from the Barossa Light and Gawler competition and one coming back from South Reserves. So they're going to be there or thereabouts. You'd still tip Flagstaff Hill to win. I don't think they've lost anybody. Oh, sorry, they've lost Daniel Webb, who's retired. But other than that, they haven't lost anybody. So they're going to be up and about again, Flagstaff Hill. I'd tip them in a close one. In the other games, you've got Noarlunga and Christie's Beach. Noarlunga picked up a couple of good players as well. Christie's have always, at this time of the year, are up and about. They've also signed a couple of good players as well. So I'll tip Noarlunga only because of the fact that it's being played at Noarlunga, down by the riverbank there.
Morphett Vale, Port Noarlunga. Who's your pick?
Yeah, well, that's our of course, we do a live game on Tribe FM.
Awesome.
So we do, that will be our broadcast game. And if you remember back, gentlemen, last time Morphett Vale haven't beaten Port Noarlunga at the Cockle Diver since for the last 6 years. And in fact, that was a pretty embarrassing loss by Morphett Vale to Port Noarlunga last year, and almost cost them a spot in the finals. So they'll be out for a little bit of redemption. I think Michael might get his first win.
And the Mighty Cobras travel to Aldinga.
Yes, that will be a terrific game. Both sides have recruited very well. Ray O'Donnell, the coach of Cove, has picked up 2 or 3 really good players. There's a few senior players have come back to the club as well. Excellent. So looking forward to a terrific game there. And I reckon the Cobras might just pick them in that one.
Mate, as always, a pleasure to have you in the studio, mate. We know it's a big weekend coming up for the Southern Footy League. You need to get down there this weekend and support your team. Get on Ranella because they are going to get it this year, I guarantee it, boys and girls.
So there's an early call. There's an early call.
I don't mind taking a little bit of flack from you people. That's okay. We need to get to a break. Stay with us. Still plenty to come on the show.